Hi there makers, my name is Jenna. Today we're going to learn how to do basic crochet. What you'll need to get started is a crochet hook. I'm using a 5mm hook today that will go well with my medium weight worsted yarn. This yarn is acrylic and can be found at most craft stores. First thing we're going to want to do is make a slip knot. This is the start of a foundation for most stitches in crochet. So what you want to do is take your ball of yarn and grab the end and pinch the end between your thumb and forefinger. You want to make sure that the tail of the yarn is up in the air. Make sure to hold on to this piece as we're walking through the other steps, as we're going to be using our other fingers for the rest of this step. Next, you want to take your yarn and put your finger on your right hand underneath the yarn itself, and then use any of the fingers on your left hand to grab the yarn underneath it. So you're going to end up making a carrot shape. Next, you're going to spin your finger towards you to cross over the yarn, and then place your thumb to meet your pointer finger on your right hand inside that loop. Next, you're going to reach over and grab underneath your fingers of that tail without letting go of that tail, and then pull that thread through. This will make a knot that can be moved and is flexible as you work. Next, we're going to be putting our crochet hook into this hole. So you move your yarn over to the left-hand side where you'll be pulling from this yarn ball, and you'll have a tail, a loop, and then the yarn that connects to the rest of your ball. So what you're going to do is, I'm a right-handed crocheter, so I'll be teaching you right-handed today. You'll be taking your crochet hook and inserting it into this hole that you've made with this loop and pulling it a little bit tighter. So you'll have your crochet hook inside of that loop, the tail dangling down, and the yarn ball connected on that left-hand side. Next, you'll pick up your crochet hook and we're going to chain 11 stitches to make our little swatch today. So the trickiest part of crochet is learning all of the points of tension. You've got your right hand, which will hold your hook. You've got your left hand, which will hold both the yarn from your yarn ball and pinch your project to help you as you move along. So the first thing we're going to do is take our pointer finger on our right hand and put it underneath the yarn from that yarn ball. And what I like to do is actually put that yarn between my pointer finger and middle finger to keep that point of tension. Then I use usually my thumb and middle finger on my left hand to pinch my work as we go. I personally like holding my crochet hook with my bottom fingers and then using my thumb and forefinger on my right hand to grab my project and move my yarn around, kind of like little pinchers. So the first stitch we're going to make is part of our chain. This crochet hook will always go to the left of our yarn. So here we've got, you can see the hook. I usually face the hook towards me while I'm working and then spin it as I grab my yarn. So to make our first stitch, we're going to go underneath that yarn on the left side, go underneath using that hook as much as possible to grab that piece, and then pull it through the slip knot that we make to make our first chain. You can go forward and make as many chains as you want. And now we have our row of 11 chains. So as you can see, our yarn is coming out of that first stitch, so we don't want to go back into this hole, otherwise we'll undo our stitch. So we want to shoot for the next chain in our row. So what we're going to do is insert our hook between the two spaces of that V. So now we have two sections of yarn on our crochet hook. The first one that has our stitch and the second one that's coming from our yarn ball. So we always, like I said, want to go to the left of our yarn and then yarn over is what the technique is called. Grab that yarn and pull through just the first stitch to leave us with 2. Then we yarn over again and pull through to finish our stitch. If our crochet hook falls off of our yarn, that's okay. We can find that loop again. So to go to our next stitch, this is the one that we just made, which is like a pretty large hole, but we want to shoot for this second one that's next to it. So we insert our hook, yarn over and pull through 1, then yarn over and pull through 2. And then we want to do that to the end of our row. Insert, yarn over to 2, yarn over to 1. Insert, yarn over to 2, yarn over to 1. And if you notice, I'm using my thumb and middle finger on my left hand to really pinch my work and organize it, and I'm using my pointer finger and thumb on my left hand to grab my loops as I'm moving. If this doesn't feel good in your hands, that's totally okay. There's a lot of different ways that you can hold your crochet hook and project that work well for different people. Definitely try out different ways of holding your hook or check out other tutorials to see if that works better for you. Now we are getting down to that last stitch in our row, and we've got one final step before we turn our work. You'll notice that my work is kind of spinning a little bit. That's okay, that's totally normal. The yarn itself is spun, so it tries to sometimes spin on the project itself. But it should kind of look like a long little worm. But at the end of our row, we want to do one more chain to kind of lock that stitch so that when we move to the next step, it doesn't come undone. Now in crochet, we always work from right to left, so we need to make it so that our work is facing us again so that we can continue our rows. So in this case, we're going to spin our work and kind of spin it like a door. So I'm taking the side of my work and flipping it over. So now we're technically looking at the back, but now we have access to that stitch on the right-hand side again to be able to complete our next row. So another reason why we add that locking stitch at the end is it adds just a little bit more height to that edge so that when we turn to make our next row, we are already up a little bit so that our row doesn't become pinched at the ends. This will definitely help making both sides of your project square. So we have our yarn in that tied off stitch at the end. So we're going to be shooting for this first stitch right on the row next to where we made our chain. As you can see, our stitches are turning into little interlocking V's, almost like little bricks in a wall. So this is the front of our work, or technically the back, looking at it from the side, and this is looking at it from the top. So we're going to insert our crochet hook underneath both sections of this V. So we're going to insert our crochet hook where now we have both halves of that stitch as well as the yarn from our yarn ball. And it'll be the same process for yarning over with a chain. So we're starting from our left side, going underneath and grabbing it, pulling it under just that first stitch to leave 2 loops on our hook, yarn over and pull through to get 1 at the end. So the next one we're going to be shooting for is this V right next to it. Insert our crochet hook where we captured that stitch, yarn over to 2, and then yarn over to 1. And you'll notice we're getting another row of those V's on top of the ones that we just built. And now we will stitch along to complete that row. Insert, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. Now you'll notice that as we're working, you do have 2 halves of that V stitch, 1, 2. And you'll notice in some patterns, it will tell you to grab the front loop only or back loop only. These are specialty stitches that you may find when you're working on creating little plush toys or other trickier stitches, but that's what they're referring to when they refer to the loops, the back loop and the front loop. So if you see that in a pattern, that's what that means. Yarn over, insert your hook to 2, yarn over, and that last one can be a little tricky, which is why I like using my fingers to grab that yarn and pull through. Awesome. And then we'll do our little chain at the end to lock our work. So now we've done the first chain and 2 rows of single crochet. And you'll notice that we have those V's coming back on top. So again, we're going to take our work and flip it over so that we can keep working. So I skipped ahead a little bit and added a couple more rows so I can demonstrate how to tie off the end of your project. So a great thing about crochet is it's really easy to end with one color and start another, or to finish your project off. So now we've reached the end of our row here, and we want to do a chain stitch to lock the end like we had discussed on the ends of our rows. And now to finish this project and remove it from the hook, all we do is pull on the hook itself. We end up with a loop where it comes from our ball of yarn and is still attached to our project. And then we take a scissors or a snips and cut that loop. So we end up with 2 little pieces. And then we just want to pull the yarn away from our yarn ball, so now it's not attached anymore. And then all you do is pull on the end of that piece, and now your project is complete. So this is what some folks call a swatch. So this is a good way to test yarn. You can also, if you're working on a project that requires sizing, like a sweater or a garment of any kind, you can use this to determine how many stitches you can fit in a certain square inch area to make sure that you, 1, bought enough yarn, and 2, that your finished project will fit. So just another kind of crochet term for folks to learn. But thanks for crocheting with me today, and I'm happy to help with folks. If you shoot us a comment and ask questions, I'm always happy to answer. But thanks for making with me today, and I hope you had a good time.